Today I wanted to talk about Assassin's Creed Shadows, which is the game that I have dubbed the cursed game because pretty much, you know, the game's production is like a proof of concept for Murphy's Law. Whatever can go wrong will go wrong. And it certainly has because lots of new stuff has come out. There was originally controversy when the game was revealed, if you will, when people realised that you're playing as a black man in Japan, in feudal Japan, and that is not very historic because the guy who it's based off of, Yatsuke, was not a samurai. He certainly wasn't the kind of person that is portrayed in the game, and in fact there are many notable historic examples of foreigners in Japan that did actually do stuff and are quite revered by the Japanese. And so if you wanted to tell that story of an outsider in Japan, you could do so with lots of historic examples. And the Assassin's Creed franchise has always prided itself on some degree of historical accuracy. For example, in the first Assassin's Creed game, which was based in sort of medieval period in the Middle East, the trailer showed crossbows, and it was said that actually crossbows weren't used, and so they removed them from the game. And a lot of the cities in the game, or the towns, were designed off of maps that are contemporary of the time that they're based in. And in Assassin's Creed 2, you were in Italy, and the sort of creation of the Renaissance period Italy, and particularly of Venice, allowed me to navigate the real place, and because I knew it in the game. And these things were admirable and good, and for people who appreciated history, who you would imagine would be the people playing these sorts of games, it was refreshing that people didn't take creative liberties with history. And with this game, it annoyed lots of people because Ubisoft are already an unpopular company because of their cookie-cutter games that are boring and lifeless and soulless. The whole projects often feel like they're made to just make money, and the whole company, it exists to milk the consumer of as much money as humanly possible, which doesn't make for good art. And the latest development is this. Assassin's Creed Shadows delayed again as Ubisoft announces group reshape. And it says, Ubisoft has revealed a need to overhaul its business to enhance operational efficiency. That's what you always want to hear late in a game's development, isn't it? It's also worth mentioning that the date it's delayed to, the 20th of March 2025, is an unfortunate date for the Japanese, because it's most notable as the anniversary of the Tokyo subway sarin gas attack, which occurred on this date in 1995. So this was shortly before I was even born, but so I was born in November of that year, where members of the Om Shikuryu, I know the cult, but I can never say their name. Sorry if you're Japanese, I don't mean to disrespect you. I'm just not very good at your language, I'm afraid. But it was nerve gas into the Tokyo subway system, killing 13 people and injuring thousands. And of course, this sort of thing very much lingers in the memory of the Japanese, in much the same way that Islamic terror attacks linger in the memories of Europeans, and perhaps some, well, definitely people in America with the 2001 attacks. And it says, this event is considered one of the worst domestic terror attacks in Japan's history. And if we go to this here, they released a promotional, what looks like one of those Funko Pop toy things, who cares, plastic tat, that was promoting the game. And it shows a torii gate, which are sort of boundaries between the sacred or the religious in Shinto and Buddhism in their shrines and the everyday life. So the crossing of the boundary is like a crossing of the threshold into the spiritual world, if you will. And the only example of a destroyed torii gate is seen in Nagasaki as a war memorial for the dropping of the atomic bomb. And the insertion of American grievance politics to have a black man in Japan because everyone has to be black now because black people are apparently victimized in their very nice standard of living, much higher than America. And so they need to be inserted into everything because they're not represented, apparently. Yeah. I'd like to see more white representation in hip-hop, please. Actually, I don't. It's beneath us. But still, this Tory Gate, obviously very significant. It's the only one like it. And so by having it in a statue, it is an explicit reference to the bombing of Nagasaki. And so it's like the development of Assassin's Creed Shadows has just been a tour of insulting the Japanese. First of all, you insult their history by putting a black man in it in a role that he never played. Then you'd have the Tory Gate incident, and then you have releasing the game on a very awkward date. And it's not rocket science how to make a good game about Japan. And in fact, the market's already saturated. You've got the Ghost of Tsushima game. I've been playing through that recently because it was released on PC not too long ago. And you've also got Sekiro that's developed by From Software, which is the same people who made the Dark Souls games and Elden Ring. Very popular. These are all stellar games. The market doesn't necessarily need another Japanese game like this because there are good alternatives. And I don't think anyone's going to play the hollowed out, boring money grab that is a Ubisoft version with a black man rather than a Japanese person. Because if you are interested in a game about Japan, you kind of want Japanese culture in it. You know, you don't appeal to low IQ people that can't relate to a protagonist because they don't look like me. Those kinds of people don't have the money to spend on luxury items. They're too busy spending it on crack cocaine or alcohol or, you know, illegal firearms to be able to do that. And so you're wasting your time as a business appealing to those sorts of people. And it's also worth mentioning as well that as of recently, Ubisoft today confirmed that the leading advisors have been hired to look at transformational, strategic and capitalistic options to extract the best value for stakeholders, which means that they're going to be harvesting even more money from consumers than they are already. Why they think that they can get away with this, I do not know, because the company's not in a good way. Their stock is plummeting and their reputation is in the gutter. They're on the path to being completely destroyed, and they're sort of doubling down on what makes them terrible. Even if the game was great, people wouldn't buy it out of spite. I'm not going to get this game out of spite, even if it's good, because I hate Ubisoft. I don't want to make them money. I think they're scum, and I think that the people involved in this decision to just extract money from people paying a decent amount of money to buy their game in the first place are utterly devoid of any human virtue. They're utter filth, basically. They're unable to appreciate good art, which video games certainly qualify as art. And they're just out to extract as much money from people as humanly possible. That makes you basically no better than an animal. You know, you're just out to acquire the resources for your own selfish gain. You have no notion of the transcendent. You are but a beast. And I want more out of humanity than this. I don't want to appeal to these animals that are out to make money. There is much more to being a human being. We can aspire to be better than our nature and be more moral, have a better world than being a basal animal. And that's what Ubisoft represents to me. And yeah, my advice is, under no circumstances should you buy any of their games. And yeah, sit back, you know, get some popcorn and watch the destruction of their company unfold, because it couldn't be happening to a better bunch of people. I do feel a little bit bad for some of the developers though, because usually they're not the ones calling these sorts of decisions. And there's clearly some talented people there, particularly in the graphics department, to make these games visually beautiful, to sort of tempt in people that don't know better about what they're getting into. But there we go. A cautionary tale in not selling your soul for money, because in the end, reality catches up to you.